11 o'clock. Welcome in. It is the GamecockCentral Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you as always. Happy to be joined by today's special guest, brand new coach of Gamecock softball, Ashley Chastain. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, you've been announced as the head coach a couple weeks ago. How have these first couple of weeks been for you?
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's really cool to be here in the studio with you, and just really appreciate the support that I've felt over the past few weeks. And it's been a whirlwind. I've been telling people it's been a really big blessing in my life. Over the past few weeks, I've spoken with many alumni, many fans. Everyone's just been so supportive and so welcoming. On the recruiting front, it has been lightning speed. We've had a ton of kids on campus. We've been out recruiting off campus. So we're moving at lightning speed. My staff has done a really great job over the past few weeks of just, looking at the roster. What do we need? So we've been heavily focused on the roster these first few weeks, but, I'm just really grateful and thankful to be here.
Now, Coach, I know you talked about it in your press conference, but the chance to come home, like I know everybody that's probably coached at some point maybe has that little thought in the back of their mind, like, man, if I could ever coach in my alma mater, that would be pretty special. But to actually get the opportunity, it is somewhat rare. So how important or how just kind of amazing was that for you and your family that this opportunity actually did present itself and at a young age as well? Like it just kind of just worked out perfectly for you here, and I'm sure you're excited and grateful and all the emotions all at once.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. I think as a coach, you do have dreams to coach at your alma mater. I mean, I think for most coaches, that's their dream job. And so just to get the opportunity at this point in my life to lead this program and be a part of the athletic department, it's a dream come true. And it's been a dream come true for me and my family. My fiance, Robert, has been super supportive of the move. My parents, my extended family, everyone really knows what this means for me. And so it's really special, and I don't know if I can put it into words yet. I've been, just talking a lot about it over the past few weeks with all the recruits and the families that have been on campus with us. But yeah, it's a dream. And it has been, like I said, a really big blessing over the past few weeks.
Now you have a softball baseball family. You mentioned your husband Robert. Who is the better player in college? Like, do y'all have these debates? Do y'all kind of go back and forth on that?
There is no doubt that he was a way better pitcher than me. So we both pitched, but he was way better than me. He's the winningest pitcher at North Carolina in UNC baseball history, Robert Woodard. So he was way better than me. I guess the debate we have is the Carolina thing, because, he's a Tar Heel and I'm a Gamecock. So that has been a heavy debate in our household for years, and I think even stronger now. So
were you guys kind of at each other's throats when they played each other in football last year?
Yes, yeah. We try not to use the word Carolina once we enter the house because, we kind of say Gamecocks and Tar Heels in the home. But yes, I mean, any sporting event where, the two compete against each other, it's really heated in our house.
Coach, to go back to like the hours, the days before you got this job, I mean, what was it like? I know you got, had some emotion at the press conference. You were just talking about being able to come back here. But when you first got that call that made it real, like I might have this opportunity, what was that like for you?
I was in the car with Robert, and, I got the call, and I just got emotional. I obviously really excited. Your brain starts moving a mile a minute just about everything that it means to lead the program. I immediately started thinking about recruiting. I mean, I think as a coach, you always do that, just thinking about the roster, but I just tried to take a few minutes with him in the car and just really kind of sit back and say, okay, wow, like this is happening, and this is, what a dream for us. And we just we were really emotional about it. And then, the press conference, I just saw so many people that I hadn't seen in, 15 years that still work here because this place is so wonderful. People don't leave. And, so I just reconnected with a lot of people at the press conference and just saw a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces as well. And, I got up on the stage with Coach Tanner and I just got emotional. My parents were in the first row. Coach Compton was in the first row, Robert. And, it was really special in that moment. I feel like for me, it's even really special, that Coach Tanner is leading us. And, I was here in 2010 and 2011 when he was leading our baseball team to national championships. And so, just to be able to connect with him now as the AD and, just be able to have conversations with him about the program, it just means a lot to me, with everything that he's meant for our department.
Does it help or maybe comfort you to have I think this maybe is kind of what you're alluding to, but you have an AD who has been in the dugout. Like, he understands the ups, the downs, the grind of a season, of an entire year, where sometimes things are going to go your way, sometimes they aren't. If you maybe have a little bit more business-oriented AD, maybe there's not quite that understanding, but I know a lot of the coaches here just talk about the fact of having a coach as their boss/leader of this athletic department. What does that maybe mean to you along those lines?
It means everything. And I do think that he gets it from what it's like to lead a program and all the ups and the downs of recruiting and, just everything that comes with leading the program. And I do think it's special. I do think it's unique. And, a lot of our conversation over those first few days were about recruiting and the roster. And I just think you can have more in-depth conversation with an AD that has been a coach that you would not have otherwise. And so, we talked right away about recruiting, the vision of recruiting, the roster, what state the roster was in. And, he just has such an inside feel and an inside look at that stuff because of his experience. So, I do think that's, really rare, unique, and I'm really grateful for it.
So as exciting as the prospect of coming to South Carolina is, how hard is it to address your players and move on from where you were in Charlotte?
Yeah, it was really tough emotionally. Kudos to the Charlotte department for how they handled that with me. I had a lot of really emotional conversations. They've meant a lot to me for the past 5 years, and that was the perfect place for me at the time. And, I had a challenge in front of me, and everyone kind of got behind me there, and we were successful. And, I feel like everyone felt a part of that. And so, it was tough. It was a few emotional days as leaving that behind. As a coach, you just kind of love your players and love everyone that's involved. And so closing that door, and obviously really excited about opening this one. I think the gamut of emotions, it's a whirlwind, up and down, and just everything that you could experience. I think I felt it that week for sure.
I think we're about 5 minutes into this interview. I think you've said recruiting 5 to 10 times at some point. So, I know that's like the lifeblood of every program, and the portal can be like a blessing and a curse. And nowadays, when you take over a job, it's like, all right, you have to hit the ground running because there are players that are in the portal, they're available, they're wanting to take visits, they're trying to make quick decisions a lot of times. I know you talked about this in your press conference too, but how much long-term, like when you really kind of dive into roster building, do you think that's portal versus, maybe putting a fence around the state and high school recruiting? I know it's always going to be a little bit of all the above, but how do you sort of see that maybe morphing as you and your staff sort of get acclimated here in Columbia?
Yeah, you're right. You have to do it all. And, our staff is really focused on all facets of recruiting. I think for us right now, right away, the portal is a way to get experience, get buy-in for players to come in that want. Everyone has a story, so you just kind of have to vet the story through the recruiting process with the portal and figure out what they're looking for and, giving them the experience they want the second go around in their recruiting process. So I think portal right away is huge for us of getting players in here that, want to be a Gamecock through and through, that want to bleed the garnet and black. I've had a ton of conversations over the past 10, 14 days about that. So I think portal right away, the portal's not going away right now. I mean, not that I see anytime soon. And,
right, yeah.
So we just embrace it. I mean, there's just so many good players out there that, like I said, have a story that want to leave their current setup for whatever reason. And, we want to get the best players in the country. So, and that's going to be a process, a build, but, we just want to be really aggressive with that right away. I think, yes, we want to put a fence around the state. I mean, the best players in the state need to be a Gamecock. And that's probably going to take a little bit more time, just with more success and building the program where we want to build it. We're definitely going to attack that right away. But I think that's longevity, is that we want the best players in the state to stay here and come to South Carolina and play for this program. So I would say portal right away. And then after that, just putting a fence around the state. We've got some things coming in the works of some really good players from the state already. So, I think everyone will be excited about that.
Are you going to I told the guys I was going to ask you this, Shane Beamer has kind of a bat signal on Twitter that he puts out when he gets a new commitment. He puts out the welcome home with the hashtag. The baseball staff started doing it too. So Coach Rooney, Monty Lee started doing it. They put out a little video. Are you going to start doing that?
We need to, yes.
Yeah,
okay. You're right. I think our associate head coach, Katie Rekovich Browder, she has deep Carolina ties. Her dad played football here in the 80s with George Rogers, and her sister cheered here and is now in the football operations building us there, Caroline Coleman. Yep. Katie is like Gamecock through and through, and she is a heavy hand in our recruiting. So, she's been having those conversations with me over the last few days of we've got to, get it going on social so people know, what's happening. But yes, we need to have something that is very authentic and, specialized to softball for sure. So we'll work on that. I'll have that here really shortly.
And then as soon as you drop it, Wes and I are going to be like trying to figure out who it is, what's going on.
So we can break it, graphic for them. But
that's right.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I don't think we can force this. Like, I think we got to take the time to figure out something that's unique for your softball program and put that stamp on it. But there has been how impressive you've been with kind of the fan reaction the last couple of weeks. Like, we on our message boards, like, we've seen fans asking about various players. I know you've already had some girls signed from the transfer portal. There's like some excitement about this. People are reading up on their careers to this point. It does seem like it's a fan base that is intrigued about learning more about your program right now.
Yeah, really impressed with the interest, and we love it. I mean, we want to fill the stands. We want the fan base to know our players and, just to really enjoy the program and, be really interested in the program. So, we really welcome that, really excited about the interest. I would love for all of those people to come to, Beckham Field and know the players and know who they're watching and, feel like they know their story. So, we're going to give as much information as we can. We love the exposure and just really appreciate you guys for everything you've done for the program in the last few weeks. But yeah, love the fan base and, definitely wanted to bring a lot of new softball fans on board. It's a great sport and it's exploding nationally with a lot of interest across the board. And so
we'll continue our conversation with new softball coach for South Carolina, Ashley Chastain, as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, rolls on your Friday here on the game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark hanging out with you on this Friday. Ashley Chastain, new head coach for Gamecock softball, hanging out with us here in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. And Coach, anytime a change is made, it's because the program isn't where it needs to be. So as you come in here as the new head coach of South Carolina, having played here before, what, in your opinion, or definition, I guess is the better word, is what South Carolina softball should be? What is the standard for what this program should be expected to do and expected to accomplish every single year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a program that has a lot of history and tradition in the SEC. It's one of the oldest programs in the SEC. And so, for me, there's no reason that the program should not be a contender to go to Oklahoma City every year. And we're going to have to build it to that. But it starts with the belief and the thought process, the standard every single day as the kids walk in the building of like, that's the expectation, the standard. So that's where it's going to have to start, is just us instilling the belief in them that that's where the program should be. But for us, like getting in the top half of the SEC, hosting a regional, being a national seed as a super host, I mean, that is going to be the path for us getting to Oklahoma City. And so, we've got to start accomplishing those things. I think it begins with being more competitive in the league and getting the players and the system in here that we need to compete at the top of the league.
How much tougher does the league get now with Oklahoma and Texas coming in? Two teams that just played for the national championship a couple weeks ago.
A lot tougher, yeah. But it's the premier league of softball, and I think it's really exciting that it just keeps getting better and better, and it raises the tide. I mean, it raises every single aspect of the sport. So I think the sport's getting better, and it just forces us to be better to be able to compete with them. But it does definitely make it tougher. They've got great players and a great system and great facilities. So I think with them coming in, it just elevates the conference and, just forces everyone to be better.
Do you get the impression, though, it's like, I've always thought in baseball and softball, like if you get to the point that you're competing in this league, and you're not going to win the thing every year. Like that like you have these goals, but I feel like your goals are probably always where if you're reaching your goals every year, they're probably not high enough. Like you want to have your goals be at the top, but if you can compete in this league to where you're like, hey, we're competitive every weekend, that probably sets you up for postseason play. And then obviously at some point you're going to run into some of those same teams in postseason play. You hope, because that means you're competing at the very best. So how much do you think if the standard is to be a team that's competing to be one of the best in this league, that also probably means you're competing to be one of the best teams in the entire country, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we get the program in the top half of the SEC, which means that, we have an above 500 record in the SEC, with falling in that category of teams, then we are looking at being a host for a regional and being a national seed. And, those things take care of themselves if you're in the top half of the league, because this is college softball. I mean, that's the top of college softball coast to coast. And so especially adding Texas and Oklahoma in the mix. It does take care of itself. And, but the players have got to believe the program is good enough to be there, so I really just to my core believe that's where it begins is, in the locker room, like who's in the locker room, meaning like the players that we have in the program, the coaching staff that we have, the support that we have, and just instilling the belief that that's where the program should be. And that's where the program is going, and that's a daily drip of that championship mentality every day at practice and the weight room. Those things just don't show up in May. You have to really instill that belief in the players from the beginning.
How much of, I know it's very important, but kind of what's the breakdown between your belief and how you build a team? Because we know like the best teams in the country, regardless of sport, they're all going to have the best players, right? And they're going to have a great coaching staff, but how much does that weigh in, just the culture piece and the team building and the belief aspect of things?
Yeah, I think we're recruiting first, right? So, like, you have to bring in the talent because, anyone can believe they're really good. And if you're not really talented enough to compete at this level, then it's probably not going to work out. But I think, recruiting first and then development second. And in development, I incorporate culture in that and belief. And you have to go out and find the right players and the best players that you think can pitch, hit, and play defense at this level, because you have to be good at all facets. You can't just pitch. You can't just hit. You've got to be really good at all facets to do what we're talking about doing, of being in the top half of the league. And then comes, once they're here on campus, creating a cohesive belief in the locker room that, we can get to Oklahoma City every year. And then, then our work ethic and our behaviors and our standards have to match that. Like it can't just be words on a wall. It really has to be the daily behavior of everyone involved in the program. So recruiting first, talent is going to take you a long ways. But even just talent alone without creating a belief in a cohesive team, I think has a ceiling, and what we're trying to do here is not have a ceiling on what we can do. So I believe you have to have it all after you bring in the right players with the right talents.
So the league's obviously going to be tougher. You're dealing with a higher caliber of talent overall. Mm-hmm. What kind of challenges does that present to you as a coach now being here and dealing with those kind of things?
I think it just boils down to being able to evaluate, with the staff of, what do we need here versus where we've been before, of what does that talent look like? We've played the teams. I have a coaching staff of people that have all been in the SEC before, so we've played in those games. We have World Series experience on our staff. We have super regional experience on our staff. So we know what it looks like. We know what it feels like. And so we just have to go out and be really good evaluators of talent and people and, really find the kids that we feel like can help all facets of the program. So you have to be really good evaluators, I think. And I believe in our staff wholeheartedly. They're out right now working really hard to, build now, like we talked about. Like we've got to build now for the fall. And that's really been the focus the last 10, 14 days is what does the team look like in August? And then, okay, what does the team look like next August in the 2026 season? You kind of have to build it out and all at the same time. You just have to be really good at managing multiple years of rosters at this level.
Coach, I'm curious how much this place has maybe changed since you played here. I was trying to go back and figure out the date on when the stadium was built. I think it was starting to be built right when your career was maybe finishing up, and then I know you GA'd here. So y'all have a beautiful facility over there.
Yeah.
How much has like the facilities aspect and just the resources here? I know obviously NIL resources in any sport in college are going to be important now as well. Can you kind of speak to the resources you have and also kind of as you continue to build fan support, you obviously want to keep building those resources as well compared to maybe other schools in this league?
Yeah. Yeah, so a little timeline. I mean, I finished playing in 11, and then Coach Smith gave me the opportunity to stay on as a GA as I finished grad school in 12. So as soon as we were done with that 12 season, they bulldozed what used to be the stadium. I'm sure we could find some pictures of it. And so then they built Carolina Softball Stadium as it is now that year. And so I didn't actually get to experience that. I had already left. So just coming back, I've played here several times over the course of my coaching career. I mean, it's a beautiful venue. It's beautiful. It's one of the top facilities in the country. Now we're gonna do some things to it, just to make it feel like it's, breathe life into it, energy, just kind of come in and make it our own. And, we're working on all those things. And most of that is for the players and the team. I want them to be really excited about walking in the door every day, that they feel like they have the same experience as any other SEC softball player. But the facility, the bones and the structure, I mean, it's beautiful. There's no better place to play. And you also have Willie B in the background. I mean, just the landscape is just, I don't know if it gets better than that. But, yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful place. And, it has a lot of history and tradition. You go and look at the wall, and it's been really cool to connect generations of Gamecocks even over the last 2 weeks over the phone. I've had a lot of those conversations. But, yeah, I mean, from a resource standpoint, NIL is really important. NIL in softball is real, and, the best players are getting paid to go play at the best programs. And so we want to build a collective. We want to build support that, people are really excited about our players and, want to have that kind of involvement in the program. So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just getting out and telling my story and getting people interested in the program and interested in our players, that people want to financially support them and also want to give us financial support to go get the best players, so that everything we're talking about as far as getting to Oklahoma City, those things become a reality for us because people backed the program.
Last one for you here, Coach. Just a couple more minutes left. And you mentioned to us a few minutes ago a lot of excitement that you've seen already from people that are welcoming you in and what the softball program is going to be. For anybody that has maybe never checked the team out, maybe never been to a game, maybe never paid attention to what softball is doing here, what's your pitch? What's your selling on why people should pay attention and care about what this team's going to be doing going forward?
I would just say give us a chance and come watch us play. I think a lot of people that don't know a lot about softball associate it with baseball, and there are so many similarities for sure. And, I'm a huge baseball fan, but the difference in the game is it's really fast and it's a lot smaller of dimensions on the field. And I think people are just enamored by the pitching because it's underhanded. It's 43 feet from home plate. You can barely see the ball once it comes out of the hand. And so I think people that don't know anything about the sport, that really want to support women's athletics and everything that women's sports are doing across the board right now, I would say just come watch us play, feel the energy that comes from the dugouts, that comes from the players' hearts and just the passion they have to play. And then on the field, like how fast and powerful the game is, I think people get hooked and then they come back and they come back. So I would say give us a chance, come out to Beckham Field, and then I think people are going to keep coming back.
Well, we're certainly excited to check out ourselves, and we want to thank you for not only taking a little bit of your time for us this morning, but also wish you and your team best of luck in this first season coming up.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Again, that is a new softball coach for South Carolina, Ashley Chastain. We'll be back with more of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Friday coming up here on the game.